we are preparing the ground. We want to be ready. We want to be trained, but it will not be decided until October 23. As I said, I don't want Meta, Google, or Amazon to suddenly come up with a currency that will take over the sovereignty of Europe.
Honestly, like, no one wants that. But the problem when you say the sovereignty of Europe, as we're going to see, you're not talking about the sovereignty of the people of Europe. You're talking about the sovereignty of the bureaucrats of Europe. Where you're talking about the sovereignty of the elites of Europe. So you're most interested in the businesses and the interests of those in power. You're not interested in the businesses of the people, basically. In fact, like, I genuinely think that we're moving back towards a monarchy system when you have the aristocrats and the peasantry, and those in power, like, genuinely do not care what the peasantry think.
Now we have in Europe this threshold above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash.
A lot of people don't know this. Like, unironically, at least in my country, I don't know about other places, but here in Romania, most people are unaware that you cannot pay anything above 1,000 euros in cash. So if you want to buy an expensive TV, a car, or something like that, you will find out that no, like, the stores do not accept cash. And I think in Western countries, people don't know this because they already do electronic transactions anyway. But for example, when I did my down payment for my house, I literally went with cash at the bank. Because what I do is, like, whenever I get my money in my bank, like literally every single time, I just withdraw everything. So I go to the bank and I stack my bricks of cash, to do the down payment for my house. And they're looking at me like I'm some sort of savage. Like I descended from a jungle someplace. Like I'm Mowgli coming up with Baloo and noticing civilization for the first time. And they're horrified at me. And I'm like, well, what's going on? It's like, well, why are you using cash? And I'm like, well, why should it? Well, isn't like bank transfer more convenient? And I'm like, well, what do I get if I keep my money in the bank? Like, what is my advantage? They couldn't answer. They couldn't give me like a single advantage of having my money in the bank. So I'm like, okay, well, if there's no advantage of having my money in the bank, why shouldn't I have them in my house? Because I can tell you a few disadvantages. Like, one disadvantage, it was that the European Union passed a law where banks could get a bail-in. So basically, like, if a bank goes bankrupt, it can literally take away your cash. You can see what happened in Greece, where banks put a limit on how much people can withdraw, right? So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, okay, so there's no advantage of having it in the bank. If I have it out of the bank, it's a lot more easier to do savings, because I can't spend it to buy shit online, because I need it to be on a credit card in order to do that. Right? So, like, for me, it's more advantageous to have my money in my hand. The bankers were shocked. They were like, no, you gotta do the wire transfer. And it's like, okay, so how do I do the wire transfer? Well, first you deposit them in here and then we do it. And it's like, okay, well, let's do that. But like, the fact that you cannot pay more than 1,000 euros in cash, a lot of people are completely unaware by this. Like, you literally have to tell them. And when you tell them, they still don't believe you.
If you do, you are on the gray market. You take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail.
Yeah, like you're not allowed to do the payment with more than 1,000 euros in cash, unless like you do what I did. So like if you go to a bank and you deposit more than 1,000 euros in cash, then it's fine, right? But I guess it's like an inconvenience for people, because if you want to buy a car, like you'd have to go to the bank first, put the money in, and then use the card to buy the car. But I still fucking do it. I don't fucking care. It's like, it's my money, right? So, like, when I need to do something that's, like, I have my money with me, and when I need to do a transfer that's more than a certain amount, then I go to the bank, I deposit the money, and then I do the transfer. I'm not going to do what they want. I don't care if it's a little bit inconvenient.
But, the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control.
Yeah, sure, like this is in the beginning, right? So the digital euro will have a limited amount of control. How do I know that once people are used to the limited amount of control, you're not going to have more control? Well, what's to stop you from, like, eventually having complete control of the digital euro? So, like, you're going to be able to do what the Chinese do, which is basically decide what people can use it for, where can they use it for. Like if you have a digital euro that, for example, is only usable for food, right? So like if you get, let's say, a welfare program from the government, and they said food only, and you can't buy it to, pay a repairman, or let's say your washing machine broke and you want to call a plumber. You can't use that in order to pay the plumber. Like, no, you have to use it for food. It has to be you, the one that uses it, because it's connected to your digital ID. What like the interesting thing is, and this is why I say that they don't care about the peasantry, is because none of this is put up to a vote. They talk about democracy and how sacred it is and how we need to protect it. And the only time democracy even gets brought up is when they want to ban the AFD from running at elections. Like that's when democracy is important. But when it's about, like, can we ask the people if they want us to control them to this level, they never do it. Not once. Like, all the important decisions that happened in the European Union, most of the times weren't even put up for elections. Like, for example, the migrant crisis, right? Like, the only time that was put up for debate, as far as I know, it was in Hungary, and they were absolutely livid that they had a referendum on it. Brexit was another important decision that was up to a referendum, and they were absolutely livid on it. The only time, like, people actually get to decide stuff, they are absolutely horrified and they hate it. I think, like, Jean-Claude Juncker even said, if you want to destroy the European Union, have more referendums. Like, they don't want to even listen or even care what the people want, because they know that the people want differently than what the people in power do want.
You're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether, for very small amounts, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control.
So notice how they say, like, there will be a little control. And then they say, well, actually, if it's a transaction for 300 and 400 euros, there will be no control. That's a lot of fucking control, isn't it? It's not a little control. Like, okay, so 300 to 400 euros. I guess, like, they don't want you to be controlled when you're doing grocery shoppings, right? But, like, when you buy furniture, when you buy a car, when you buy anything expensive, they want total control. I mean, even if you go on a holiday, you're probably going to spend more than 300 and 400. A plane ticket. They want to control if you use a plane ticket. They want to control if you use a car. They want to control if you buy a gas stove. You see where this is going, right? And again, like, this is not put up for a debate. This is not even democratically voted for. No political party is even talking about this. So disgusting. And then they will say, oh, democracy is important. What democracy? What is it? What is it? I want to find it. Can someone show me where the democracy is? But listen to this.
We could have a mechanism where there is zero control. But that could be...
Right. So a mechanism with zero control, which is what we should have now, is dangerous. Who's going to control these people, though? And you know what's more interesting? I notice this is happening all the time, right? Like, they will say, usually in Europe, right? In America, it's to protect the children. But in Europe, it's to prevent terrorism, right? So, like, we're going to do this in order to prevent terrorism. We're going to control people's finances in order to prevent crime. We're going to control this. We're going to limit your rights. We're going to do this for more safety. Like, in Romania, we already live in a fiscal dictatorship. So, if the government wants, it can literally see how I spend my money and where I go on a holiday, what I do. Like if it zeroes in on a person, they can see almost everything about that person. Right? They have access to my bank accounts. They have access to almost everything, right? So, despite all this, there's still corruption in my country. How the fuck? There's no way. There is no way you can have corruption with the system in place. And yet, yea and behold, every time in the newspaper, well, this politician is corrupt, this guy is corrupt, doctors are corrupt, professors are corrupt. How are they corrupt? Like you took away so much privacy from people. You should be able to stamp down corruption. And I'm willing to bet that even with the digital euro, you're going to have the elites still being corrupt. And you're going to wonder, like, how? How the fuck do they still do it? How is it still done? And it's the same thing with, like, in the United States. Oh, we need to do this to protect kids. We need to do this. And, like, how many things do you need to do until you can say, well, kids aren't protected? Right? Like just how many rights do you need to take away? How many new laws? How many bans? How many regulations until you can say, all right, well, we've done it? But anyway, right. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.